So welcome everybody, good afternoon. I hope you enjoyed your Easter breaks, if you did manage to get one, the Easter eggs. My name is John Stenhouse, I'm the Business Support Manager of the University of Essex, University Enterprise Zone. We manage the Angels at Essex programme and run the series of investment readiness webinars. These webinars are brought to you with the compliments of Essex County Council and the University of Essex. And we have today our special guests from MSDUK, and I'll let them explain about themselves later. And we are Angels at Essex, which is an equity investment platform managed, run and owned by the University of Essex, which helps businesses raise equity finance for their innovative venture. Now, I have with us today from MSDUK, Carolina and Joanna. Now, Carolina is the program manager looking after the MSDUK Accelerator, and I will let Carolina explain that in much more detail as she goes along, but it's for nurturing and developing startup community and ensuring the network grows for ethical and for diverse businesses. And we have Joanna, who's the Innovation Challenge Manager, who is also a program manager responsible for heading the Innovation Challenge, which she will talk about in much more detail later, because I am not the expert on this case. These ladies are.
Thank you, John, for the introduction, and welcome everyone. I just wanted to say I'm really excited, and thank you very much for deciding to spend this hour today with me. I'm sure your inboxes are full of messages, after the break, as it always is. But what we want to talk about today are the topic sounds simple, but as we can see, it might become a bit more complex. It is about how startups can work with the corporates. And as an introduction, my name is Karolina Jagodzińska. I am the Accelerator Manager at MSDUK. And later today, you will hear from my colleague, Joanna Chan, who is the Innovation Challenge Manager. As part of my role, I work with startups and the earlier stage businesses who are usually in B2B or B2B2C, and they are interested in working with the corporates. What we do as MSDUK is our mission is to bring together innovative and high growth ethnic minority businesses with global corporations that are committed to creating an inclusive and diverse supply chain. But what that means in simpler terms is MSDUK connects high growth businesses that are interested in working with the corporates with those opportunities. So we know that corporates usually have a part of their budget that they want to spend with ethnic minority founders, and we help those corporates reach those founders, and we help founders find these opportunities. We offer a special certification to those businesses as well that is recognized in the industry, and it helps the corporates to identify the businesses that are owned by ethnic minority founders. What we, through our work and some of the research work that we've done at MSDUK, we recognize that starting a business is hard, and starting a business as an ethnic minority founder also poses additional challenges. And that's why, as a response to that challenge, we have a few initiatives within our offering to support those businesses that are probably not yet ready to take on a big contract with the corporate, but who see it as their future goal and would like to develop. And that's why we have the two programs, the Accelerator that I'm looking after and the Innovation Challenge that Joanna will talk about in a few minutes. But coming back to the topic of our talk today, how can this corporate and startup collaboration look like? Well, I know that when we speak with founders, when we ask them about whether they're interested in collaborating or working or testing their product with the corporate, the answer is usually yes. And of course, we understand that. Working with a global brand can very often give you that traction, that recognition, that proof of concept that you need. And that helps to secure the traction. It can help with raising investment, and in general, it can help you scale your business. So no wonder that startups are so interested in working with the corporates. Corporates, on the other hand, are increasingly more interested in collaborating with startups because of the benefits that offers, how agile and innovative startups are. But in the session today, I will share with you some of the tips and the research that we have done on how to prepare well for that opportunity, and how to decide whether this opportunity is actually the one that will help your business. I have this image here, but we know that no matter how innovative the startup is or how determined the founder is to grow their business, sometimes if the startup and the corporate are not aligned on what they want to achieve, or if they haven't communicated clearly on what they both see this pilot delivering, sometimes they can end up in this not desirable situation of what some people call pilot purgatory. And this is the situation when the pilot or the project that you're working on is actually not delivering on the expectations both parties had, and can be quite disappointing to the startup or to the corporate. From what we've seen, there are a few reasons why this might happen, and I want to talk about these reasons for a bit, because I think it's important to know that, so that you can spot the red flags early on, and change the course of action, act on it, and then basically address it before it became too late. So sometimes there are strategic commitment problems that we've seen, and this happens when on the corporate side they are almost just looking, they're just exploring. We understand that working with the startups is a hot topic in those corporate conversations. It is always great to support the founders, but sometimes, and we've seen this situation ourselves, on the startup side, they are expecting something way more tangible than what it is on the corporate side. So it's important to be mindful of that and address it quite early on in terms of what everyone is expecting and what the end goal of the pilot is. Sometimes, and this is something that you don't have that much control, but it can happen, are the shifts within the corporate management. Even if the new management isn't necessarily against the pilot project, sometimes it can take months before the new person familiarizes themselves with the project and the project can progress. So it's something to keep in mind, because if that happens during your pilot project, that will significantly extend how long the project will take. So that's something that you need to take into a consideration. Next up, and this is more on the consideration for the corporate, but startups are sometimes not mature enough, and they maybe will need to pivot. And that's something that startups do very often, right? Change the course of action. They're adaptable. The flexible is one of the advantages, but it is something to take into account, whether you're planning to do that, and whether that will affect the pilot. Sometimes, and this is one of the biggest issues to be aware of, so that you can address them, because the solution is about unclear ownership. Very often we see founders speak with the innovations team from the corporate side, and those people who work in those innovation teams, they are aware of how startup work. They love working with the startup, but to actually deliver something tangible, they will need a buy-in from people from other teams. So for the founder, if you are entering this conversation, it's really important that you identify early on who your decision maker actually is, who is the stakeholder, and then so that you can build your value proposition for that stakeholder. That way you can avoid, spending months talking to someone from the innovation who loves your idea, but when they actually bring it to the person who is the decision maker, they just you don't get the buy-in and it doesn't work out. So early on, identify who your decision maker is. And finally, there are some bureaucratic issues that you need to be aware of. So corporates work to a different timeline than startups do. And we've seen this at MSDUK as well, that sometimes the processes of even simply adding you on the list of the suppliers can take way longer than we would love to. And I think that's a known issue. And we as MSDUK also try to advocate for the change to be made. And some of the corporates are recognizing that they need to maybe shorten some of the processes to make it easier for the businesses to become the suppliers or get on that list, or just have their account set up faster so that they can move forward with their proposal. But again, it is something to consider. And finally, sometimes legal matters can also take a long time. So again, it's something to take into account when you are deciding whether you have the time, the resources, the energy to get involved in a project like that, and whether the benefits of the project are worth the commitment that you have to stick to deliver on the project. But let's say you've considered all of that and you decide that you want to move forward and you actually would like to try to work on a pilot project with a corporate. We believe that there are 3 components to conducting a successful pilot. And I would say that one of the crucial elements when deciding whether this is the right path for you is understanding what you want to achieve. What is it that you want to get out of this project? When you are in earlier stage businesses, perhaps you need a partner that will give you the freedom to test things out, test your project, and a partner that will be able to offer you valuable feedback so that you can tweak your product accordingly. But if you are more established and you're actually looking for customers, perhaps this pilot project should offer you a chance to prove the value of the product and prove the product's actually worth the price, so that your partner, pilot partner, actually becomes your customer in the long term. So depending on where you are at which stage, you might need different things, and that will shape what the pilot will look like, and that will shape what you will commit to. So we encourage the businesses to at first be smart about their company needs, but secondly, be curious about the partnership and the potential relationship. So you also need to understand what the corporate can get out of the project, who should be involved, and I guess be curious about how you can two work together, because it takes two to tango in a way to deliver on that. And finally, be disciplined about the decision making. And for that, I mean, once you know what you need, be disciplined about getting that, or making sure that the pilot that you commit to is actually delivering on what you need. So considering all of those red flags that I mentioned earlier, be disciplined enough so that you avoid these red flags and you get to a pilot that is actually delivering something tangible that you need. So what we advise to the founders who are considering this is to really brainstorm with their team, get the few key people from your team to provide you with some insight into what they think this pilot could give them, write it down so that you've got a clear view of what would your must-haves so that this is a success. And secondly, in order to understand the other side, in order to understand the corporate, you need to do your research on them, check their current goals, market pressures, processes. For that reason, our first module on the accelerator program is actually customer validation and discovery. We consider this as one of the most important elements, understanding your customer and really targeting your value offering to what they need is a difference between sometimes, making it and not. So do your customer validation and discovery homework before you enter and think about these opportunities. Once you've done all of that and you actually want to proceed with the pilot plan, here are some of the considerations and things that we encourage founders to sort out so that they can stick to the plan and ensure that at the end of the day, they deliver a pilot program that made sense and helped them move their business forward. So you need this roadmap, and there are several areas that we encourage you to consider, and they could be summarized as who, what, when, where, and how of the pilot. So first is the purpose statement or goals. This is what I've talked about before. So just identifying why the pilot is conducted, what do you want to accomplish through it? Are there any assumptions that you're making? And there usually are. And also include the planned pilot duration and how you will test your goals. It is a very important step, as you can see, because at the end of the pilot, if you know what you are trying to achieve or what your assumptions were, it's easy to compare and analyze the results afterwards. Next up is the pilot area. So define, and this is crucial, and this is part of your customer discovery. Define what part of the organization is and is not involved in the pilot area. Include as much detail as necessary. We would encourage you to go as far as job roles and titles to make sure that this is perfectly clear. And this step is important for you so that you know who you need to speak to, you know what your ask is, but it's also important for the corporate because it makes the job of the person from the innovation team much easier. If you clearly say that you identified that your decision maker is this person, if the person from that you're speaking to actually loves your idea, it's so much easier for them to connect you with the right one rather than trying to look for who the person is. So be clear about who you need to speak to so that you can clearly ask for that and the person who wants to help you can help. Next up are the pilot resources. And so you need to know, ideally before you get involved, into what are the resources that you will need to conduct the pilot. Again, this can include, depending on whether it's a product or service, but it can include how many people need to be involved. Do you need any part of the office or the equipment that the corporate has, depending on what the pilot is. But knowing this makes it easier for you because you can agree beforehand that this is what they will provide, this is what you will need, and this makes the delivery of the pilot so much easier. Fourth point is feedback loop. Feedback is critical when you're conducting your pilot because you want to learn as much as possible. So make sure that you schedule regular check-ins and you agree with your contact on the corporate side how often you will be having your touch points, what they will need to report on, and what information you want to collect. That way, you can evaluate the project very clearly at the end, because if you know what you are measuring, you collect this data, at the end, you can just compare it. And finally, it's the communication plan. So make sure that the people who are supposed to be involved in the pilot are actually kept in the loop. They know about the progress that you're making, and everyone is kind of up to date with the project. That will help because if you know what you want to achieve, you agree on that, it makes the conversation after you finish the pilot a bit easier. So these are the things that we encourage the founders to think about and establish as they are trying to outline the pilot. Again, as a few of the tips, be as specific as you can. That makes the job on the corporate side much easier. And that makes it clearer for you. That helps to avoid some of these red flags that I mentioned when you are expecting this and you are actually offered this because the person on the corporate side maybe had a different idea of what the goal of this pilot is. So be as clear and as specific as you can. But once you're ready to go, you can actually kick off and deliver the pilot. Make sure that you stay, in the loop with everyone, communicate clearly. and collect the information that you need. Because after you finish, the next critical thing is actually evaluating the pilot and agreeing on the next steps. And that comes back to what I was talking at the very beginning, which was identify what you want to achieve. If what you want to achieve is actually securing this corporate as your future customer, once you prove the value of your services or your product, then if that's clearly stated from the beginning and you can easily prove it through the information you collected, it makes the conversation or the follow-up much easier for you as a founder, because you can say, look, we agreed on that. This is what we have delivered. How about we explore this partnership further? And this is it on the pilot plan, but there I also have a few tips that I want to share. And this is when you are preparing to pitch that opportunity. That's something that we share from the business with the businesses on the accelerator program as well. What we say to our companies is think about the case studies that you can show, as it is always a good tip, to see how the solution will be applied practically. Make sure you make it visual. If you can, show how this solution will fit with the brand, any imagery will definitely help to make your argument stronger. And this is even, I would say, this is one of the tips that you would apply anywhere. It's just about the presentation. Like, if you can make it visual, if you can help your listener imagine what it will look like, I think you increase your chances of getting a positive answer. Next, third point is coming back to that customer research. Have you considered any specific challenges that the corporate is battling with right now? Have you done your research? Have you identified maybe a huge downfall that the corporate is facing right now that you can help with? Make sure that you identified that. And the fourth point, kind of reiterating everything, ensure that you spend an equal time creating the use cases, so talking about the case study, what it will be like. So you spend the equal amount of time on that as you spend on the upfront work researching your corporate. It is really important that you understand your customer as good as you can. And some considerations finally for you, if you're thinking whether this is the right solution or not for you at this stage. So it takes time to meet the right person, and it takes time to find the right opportunity fit. And I think this is the key. We've seen that with the businesses at MSDUK. Generally, this B2B cycle takes longer. Yeah, so that's something that you need to consider beforehand. Do you have enough resources to run until you find that right fit, or until you speak with the right person? Because certainly it's not a thing that will happen overnight. The businesses within our network sometimes need few touch points with the corporate. And that's actually not sometimes, very often. They need few touch points, maybe with different people, meetings, before they find the right fit, before they find the right person. So consider whether this is whether you are at the right stage to spend your time on that. Next up, relationship is a very important factor, because you need to build a relationship with that contact within the corporate so that they can help you push your solution internally. And that also takes time. Flexibility, stay flexible. I think as soon as you identify your must-haves of the pilot, it will become easier, because you will know what you can compromise on and what is the must-have that you need to that needs to be part of the pilot. But be open to of course being flexible, so that at the end both parties can deliver on something that makes them happy and is good, is aligned with their goals. And the last point, capability and capacity. Again, it comes back to the question, is that the right time for you to do this? Are you ready? Do you have the resources? Do you have the time? Do you have the energy? And that's everything. I just want to very briefly mention the MSDUK Accelerator, because what I've just talked about is part of what we talk to our businesses on the Accelerator program. It is a 3-month program designed for ethnic minority businesses that are B2B and are looking to work with the corporates in the future. Of course, the companies that we accept are not at the stage to fulfill a large contract, but they are interested in working with the corporate in the future. So through the program, corporate mentoring, some of the sessions, we help them develop their proposition, develop their business, so that in the future they are ready. But we offer a lot of insights that help them do the customer validation and discovery early on, so that they can identify this before they get too involved. And as the benefits of the program include, I think the biggest benefit is that network of enterprise educators, but also corporates that are part of our network. The businesses are paired up with corporate mentors so that they can understand the ins and outs of the processes, firsthand from someone on the inside. I mentioned that the program lasts 3 months. We offer 1-year follow-on support as an MSDUK member, and the community is something that you would become part of as the Accelerator member. But this program is currently in progress. We already have a cohort closed. We will be recruiting again in October. Yes, in October. So if you want to join us, you can do it then. But there's another great opportunity that we have open right now and that we're recruiting for, and that's the MSDUK Innovation Challenge. So I will let my colleague Joanna take over now, and she will talk to you about what the competition is, what it can offer you.
Okay, well, hello. Thank you so much for sharing, Carolina. I am going to share more about the Innovation Challenge, it's something different from the Accelerator. This year, our theme is Sustainable Solutions for a Better World. So we're focusing more on like corporate sustainability, and I'll just dive in a bit more to what that means. So the Innovation Challenge, it started in 2017. It's really, the goal is to promote and showcase ethnic minority businesses and startups. So it's really designed to tackle innovation and inclusiveness and representation for these ethnic minority businesses. It's mainly a chance for these EMBs, as we call them, and startups to pitch to over 100+ global brands within our network. It's sponsored by Accenture, so that's our headline sponsor, and the category sponsors are Cummins, EY, and GSK this year. So out of the corporate sustainability theme, it's broken down into 3 different pillars. So the first pillar is the environmental pillar. It's focused on products, services, and solutions that can help the corporate be more environmentally conscious. Some of the solutions include sustainable packaging or green energy, managing waste, eco-friendly products, or locally sourced or produced products. These are just some examples, so don't let that hinder your imagination to what this could actually mean. And there's also a social pillar, which is sponsored by GSK. This is really focused on solutions that can promote health, safety, and well-being for employees, customers, or communities of GSK and corporates. It relates to anything from social equality or helping people with disabilities, mental health, skills development, or human resources. And the economic pillar, which is sponsored by EY, this is focused on solutions that can help corporates really increase their business efficiencies through the sustainable practices that they have. And it could include things like helping to reduce costs in the business, or increasing customer loyalty and new market opportunities, and making resource management more efficient. Again, these are just examples, and we've kept the categories quite broad in terms of environment, social, and economic, so that as long as you see any overlap in one of these categories, we really encourage you to apply for them. So the timeline really is, we launched it on 4th April, because that's when applications open. And then the applications close on 31st May. So there's about 5 or 6 more weeks left for applications. Then the finalists, we're going to be choosing 3 finalists from each category. So that's 9 finalists in total. It will be announced on 4th July. And then we will also conduct a pitching workshop for these 9 finalists, so that they can have some insight into how to pitch to the corporates. And then we'll have a live finals on 8th September. This will be held in London, and 100 plus of our corporate partners will be attending. So judges will be from like Accenture, Cummins, EY, and GSK. They will each have a hand in choosing who the final winners are. And of course, one thing that I think everyone would be more interested in is what prizes that are available. So for the overall winner, up to £20,000 cash prize will be given, and also introduction to our corporate network through a 1-year premium MSDUK membership. So this gives the startup or ethnic minority business unlimited access to the MSD UK programs and events throughout the year. There will also be some corporate mentoring from Accenture, which will last 12 to 18 months. We also have some special category prizes, which you can find out more about on our website when you dive in deeper. And for the eligibility criteria, there's really, as we are focused on ethnic minority businesses, we would like at least one of the founders to be of an ethnic minority origin with a majority, which is 51% or more, equity in the business. The applicants must also be a UK citizen, resident, or on a startup or innovator visa. And it's open to startups and SMEs who have at least a minimum viable product. We are aiming to get businesses that are a bit more mature so that they'll be ready to actually work with the corporate. So this is a bit different from the accelerator, where in the accelerator you sort of get a chance to hone your business and really define the product better. But for this innovation challenge, we are targeting businesses that are a little bit more established. And yeah, feel free to apply now. I'll drop the link in the chat and also, of course, answer any questions that anyone has.
Thank you very much, Joanna and Carolina, for the presentations today. I am going to ask the audience for any more questions, but they are starting to come through. But just a little question that I had. It wasn't apparently clear to me when I was listening, but what are the costs involved in engaging on your programs?
All of our programs are free. We're not taking any equity because we believe it links to our mission that we're there to support. So there's no cost to take part in the Innovation Challenge, and there's no cost to take part in the Accelerator, and we're not taking any equity.
That's very clear. Now, there was a question from the audience, from Mario, and I believe I'm not quite sure whether it was meant for you, Carolina, or for you, Joanna, but so there's nothing in the health sector on assistance for patients or assistance to patients. Is that true?
I believe this is a question regarding the categories that we have.
Yeah, so I would say that if it's something related to the health sector, that would be more related to the social pillar, because it is, sponsored by GSK, and they're looking for solutions that promote, well, not directly to patients, but if there's anything, health related for employees, customers, or communities. So I think anything related to like mental health, healthcare, or helping people with disabilities, that kind of thing would be something that they're looking for. And again, even if you're not sure, please feel free to apply, because all of these applications will go to GSK, and they will be the judge of, if it is something that can help, solve them. So it's really just maybe 10-15 minutes for a time to apply, with a chance to win over £20,000.
Yes, because I would have thought GSK would have been interested in the health market.
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest providers to the NHS service. And of course, we've always got the health service, the health science networks and the NIHR, which can also help in those kind of areas if that's appropriate to do so. So there's more than one way of doing that. Okay, more of a technical question on the eligibility. Can you only support startups if the founders have a 51% equity stake in their company?
Yeah, and I think I can take this one. So at the moment, yes, this is one of the requirements, and it is linked to how the certification that MSDUK offers as well. So in order to be a certified ethnic minority business, the founder needs to be the key decision maker and the major stakeholder. I would say because we are aware that especially with startups, if you're raising investments, sometimes that equity can be diluted. So in those particular cases, I would advise to get in touch with us, and we can have a conversation and review it on the individual basis. But at the moment, this is one of the requirements.
Okay, because Mario has actually come back and asked. They've got two founders for their business and it's a 50-50 split, but only one of them is from an ethnic background. So I assume that would be acceptable.
Yeah, so I would say, Mario, get in touch, and then maybe we can just have a conversation and see what we can do. Yeah, we usually just review it on a case by case. I guess, especially for our programs, we can be more flexible because the program is offering the value. But in terms of that certification, we might not be able to bend the rules there, because the certification also is in agreement with the corporates. They recognize them that they're working with a business that is led by an ethnic minority founder.
I mean, so going back to yours, Caroline, you run them in cohorts. Is it 2 a year, 3 a year? How often do you actually run these now?
Yeah, so the program, we run 2 cohorts per year. We have, we started in October, so we just finished the first cohort, and we're running the second cohort right now. The program is sponsored by Unilever, Dow, WPP, and Google. And they provide sponsorship for the 3 years. So we will still have at least 4 cohorts. So there are plenty of spaces for the businesses. The next one will be starting in October, so we'll soon be opening the applications. So I guess if I can share something with the audience and with people listening, if you are considering the programs, the innovation challenge as well that we've mentioned, but you're not sure about it, you don't know whether you're the right fit, I guess just get in touch. I have dropped my email here in the chat, and we're more than happy to discuss it individually with you, especially because sometimes business founders might not be sure if that's the right fit for them. So get in touch. We can talk through the program in more detail, and then we can also advise whether a program like an accelerator is more suitable, or maybe you're ready for that opportunity to actually pitch and then you take part in the innovation challenge. So we're happy to speak.
Yeah, and I noticed that you mentioned that when you're trying to get into corporates, that they like to see other case studies. But of course, if you haven't done it before, how can you get around that kind of scenario? How can you impress them without having a case study already?
I guess it's the question is about the traction and the little things that you can use to prove that there is value. It is similar to when you're trying to raise investment in a way. And I think the key is coming back to that customer validation and discovery, because if you don't have a case study that you can show, if you haven't worked with the business in the past and you cannot show it as a thing that you've done, if you do good homework on the corporate that you want to work with, and you show you are aware of the challenges that they're facing, and you are aware of some initiatives or the programs that they have, and you can clearly show how your solution fits with that, how you will offer value to the corporate, that significantly increases the chances of working with them. What we've seen sometimes with the businesses that we speak with, they really want to work with the corporate, but they're not really sure how that would look like. And that's when sometimes unfruitful conversations can take place. We've seen that with the businesses who are, I guess, more direct in terms of their ask and in terms of what they need, it makes it easier for those individuals from the corporate side who want to help to actually provide that support. So I guess, yeah, I think it will be like the theme of my it will be a theme of my presentation today, just customer validation, understanding the corporate so that you can show the value.
Okay, we've got a question now from Ram. Is the accelerator open to pre-seed businesses without an MVP?
So the answer here would be no. I think we do say, we do ask for the businesses to have MVP in place when they join the program. The reason for that is that the program will help you, I guess, shape it, but we need founders who are past the idea stage. So you need to have an MVP in place. But again, I guess sometimes it can be hard to understand what an MVP is, and many people have different definitions of that. So we would say, as long as you can show tractions, as long as you can show us in your application form that you've tested some of it, or even if you have a list of people interested in seeing your solution, if you have the beta version of the platform or whatever you're working on, we would consider that enough. So again, if you're having doubts, the best way is to just get in touch and then we can discuss it together.
Okay, David's posted two questions. So I'll take the second one first. It's about the IT tech in the innovation challenges. I mean, the IT tech that the SME is providing in an innovation challenge, is that protected? Can they protect that particular IT tech? I mean, say, how would that work in the relationship with your sponsors?
So I guess as a general rule, we say to founders, consider that you will be presenting, you're pitching your solution in front of the audience. It is live in September. So we would advise against sharing any sensitive data. So in your pitch, do not include things that you wouldn't want the public to know, because we cannot control the audience, and we cannot, we'll be promoting you afterwards. So we'll be sharing, the recording of your pitch left, right, and center. So make sure that what you're presenting on the day is the information that you want to be shared and want to be public. And I guess if you were to, because the end of the innovation challenge is actually the prize money. And if you were to enter the conversation with the corporate following that, that would be very, individual and based on what you're actually offering and what the corporate is, what the pilot is. So I'm a bit vague with the second part, but in terms of the pitching on the day for IC, just make sure that you pitch things that you're happy to stay as a public domain.
Okay, so David's first question was about funding for the pilots. I mean, are the pilots actually funded, or is it only the competition winners that actually receive funding?
Yeah, so it's only the competition winners that receive some financial contribution. What we say to the founders on the accelerator program is actually not to expect a pilot project straight away. We want to manage expectations, because from our experience, we know it takes time. So what we're hoping to achieve through the program is really provide the founders with the valuable connection, with an opportunity to understand how this ecosystem works, to build connection through their corporate mentor and see whether that's a right path for them. Of course, if if it leads to more following the program, we would be more than happy to support the founder as well in developing that. But I guess the support is not financial. The support is more in terms of honing your offering and offering advice and support as you move forward. But nothing financial that we can offer at this stage.
Just on that one, how many businesses tend to get some work with corporates out the back of the accelerator?
That's a very good question, and I think this helps to illustrate how long it takes. So from the first cohort, it finished in January. We don't have anything agreed set in paper from our founders. What we've seen and what we believe is the value and the offering of the program actually is the information, the insights that they get. So for example, one of our founders was mentored by a mentor from Unilever, and they managed to develop a successful, good relationship. And following the program, that senior mentor from Unilever agreed to join the board of directors of that startup. So that's when we offer value. And hopefully with time, as the business also grows, they have a contact, someone who understands their business and help them push from the inside. But yeah, none of our businesses yet have secured a pilot. And I think that's that's true of the program. It takes a lot of time. So founders should consider whether they're at the right stage.
I think that's a very good answer, because we're always asked, how long does it take to raise equity? How long does it take to get investment? How long to that? And it is a very slow process. And when to start? Well, you start at the very earliest stage and prepare. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's all about preparing. And the services that you're providing on your programs is all about getting someone ready. And it does take time. Nothing's instant these days. If it is instant, then let's see Microsoft, Google, people like that take it on board because they've got the resources to be able to push it forward at that great speed. But yeah, it does take a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of effort, and a lot of ups and downs along the way. I certainly appreciate Carolina and Joanna's presentations today. It's been extremely informative. I've actually learned quite a lot today, some things that I didn't know. And I think anybody who is really seriously considering working with corporates, has got an ethnic background or diverse background, whichever way you want to express it, I think that's an excellent opportunity to take advantage of these free services, which are only around for a certain period of time. So, and there's no harm in asking. And I've always said this, those who ask get and receive. So, ask and see whether or not you're eligible, whether or not it's suitable. And the next question is, what do I have to do to make it eligible or to make it suitable? And so we can go from there. I thank my presenters today, and thank you for the audience for joining us today. And hopefully we'll see you next week for our next round of investment readiness webinars. Thank you very much indeed, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you, John. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.